There's a disturbing new report today that really shouldn't come as any surprise. I think that we've known that the Democratic Party for quite some time has wanted to get rid of the Electoral College because, let's face it, it's not really helping them as much as they would like. Well, now there are reports that there's quite an effort underway, but you are seeing that the January 6th committee is rather split on this. Liz Cheney, who I know a lot of Republicans, especially Republicans that were big supporters of Donald Trump, are no fans of. Well, she's actually come out on the side of keeping our Electoral College. This is kind of crazy stuff, you know. We have things in place for a reason, and let's face it, you know, they've kind of worked well for hundreds of years. It would be a shame to change any of that. But we're going to get into the history of it and why this is happening now, today, in today's show, as well as we got to get to the news on Elon Musk. Never a dull moment. Will this deal ever get done? Not if he has anything to say about it. I think as of today, I will explain. It's so good to have you here again. I am Trish. This is the Trish Regan Show. Portions of today's program are brought to you by Legacy Precious Metals because there's never been a better time to invest in gold than right now. Right now, given all the inflation we have. So go to legacypminvestments.com today. LegacyPMInvestments.com for your free investing guide. By the way, the market, as I go to air right now, giving up some of the gains that we saw in the session just earlier, and that's perhaps because people are coming to this reality that, you know, the economy kind of stinks. Oil prices are still sky high. Gas prices, they just came out highest ever as we start the week off here on a Monday. Anyway, before we get to all that, I just want to point out that this Electoral College stuff, I consider this pretty alarming. That there's such an effort here to, again, undo something that I think is one of the institutions that makes us so great as a country. It's something that helps us to appreciate our diversity, right, of all these different geographical places in a way that makes us very special and has always historically made us the United States of America. I'm talking about Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3, which provided the original plan for our Electoral College. Now, this means little states like the one I grew up in, New Hampshire, you know, we don't have that many electoral votes compared to, say, Texas or California, but we're still relevant. We're still relevant because of the Electoral College. We wouldn't be at all. I mean, no candidate would bother coming to New Hampshire, right? Or Rhode Island or Vermont or any of these little New England places because it just wouldn't be worth it. You'd want to spend all your time in California and in New York and in Texas in these big populous centers. But one of the things that makes us special is that our presidents have to answer to all the people in all the little corners of the country. Sure, California has more electoral votes than certainly New Hampshire, but New Hampshire's still relevant, right? And that's, I think, one of the best things about this system. And if you destroy that, then you're disenfranchising so many people in this country. Now, the Democrats would argue, look, it's seen its day, it's not relevant anymore because we want to make sure that every single vote counts. And in that sense, you can't have an electoral college because that means that some people, like in New Hampshire, they would say, are being unfairly overrepresented. As you look back in history, haven't had a perfect relationship, right, between whoever wins the popular vote and whoever actually becomes president of the United States. And I was doing my research. It was 1824, 1876, 1888, in the year 2000, and then of course in the year 2016, where again that happened, in which you did not have the president of the United States actually winning the full-on popular vote. So it happens. But again, this is why the Electoral College comes back into being. What is disturbing to me is that because it's not working out for Democrats right now, I mean, given what happened in 2016, they want to change the whole system. And this is a problem. Whether it's the Electoral College, whether it's the Constitution, whether it's the number of Supreme Court justices we have on the bench, the whole idea is, well, you just change it. And I'm sorry, but this is what makes us us, right? I mean, this is what is special about the United States. We haven't changed our Constitution 50 times in the last 200 years. No, we've had the same one. And it's worked. And we have 538 electors, of which you need 270, right, to become the president of the United States. And to think that they would rob us of that, that they would change that right now. I'm disturbed by it, but expect to hear more chatter on this. I don't think they can get it done, but it just tells you this is why it's so important. It's so important for Americans to care about this stuff, especially if you live in a small state, and to be active and to get out there and vote, because things could change, and they could change really, really fast. I mentioned the Supreme Court. I mean, that's one of the things I think that they'd like to change. They'd like to see more justices on the court, especially in light of what we saw may be coming out, a decision on a rather big case this summer. And that would be pretty troubling. And I look at countries that have done that. Venezuela comes to mind. And it's not gone well, right? Because then you lose trust in everything. We are losing faith as a society in these key institutions. The one sort of holdout there, the one that we still seemingly respect, has been the Supreme Court. So if you were to just pack the court, depending on whoever was president of the United States, then you would lose that too. And then you just lose our country. So I'm troubled by what they're doing. I think we will hear more about it later this week. So keep an eye out. There have been some reports. Politico, I believe, had one. Forgive me, Axios had a good one today, talking about how there's this split in the committee in terms of who wants to keep the Electoral College, who wants to get rid of it. Let me just say the Electoral College is a good thing. We need the Electoral College so that we can preserve this great diversity that we have. I mean, otherwise, I'm sorry, it's New York and California and maybe Texas deciding everything. All right, I want to move on to another story regarding Elon Musk, because he's sure making life HELL for those that own shares of Twitter right now, probably employees, and a few bankers and lawyers in between. But before we get to Elon and Twitter, as I talk about, protecting institutions like the Electoral College or the Supreme Court, I just want to give a brief shout out to a wonderful organization that I think you should look at joining. It's called AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. And this is a group that is devoted to making sure that these institutions still have merit, and that our freedom and our faith and our values are protected. And so that's a pretty important cause. They're out there looking out for all Americans, both in Washington, D.C. and throughout the country. And they're doing this with your help. In fact, just for $16 a year. I thought it was $16 a month. I think I said that a few weeks ago on the show. I'm like, whoa, no, it's only $16 a year. For $16 a year, you can be part of this group. amac.us/Regan. My last name, Regan, Regan. You can be part of this group, and you get all kinds of discounts on things from cell phone plans to travel, meaning restaurants and hotels. It's a great organization. They can help you find, for example, the right retirement plan, perhaps the right healthcare plan, and they're doing this while working with like-minded Americans who believe in ensuring that all Americans will have this access to prosperity. So wonderful organization. I really encourage you to take a look. www.amac.us/Regan, the Association of Mature American Citizens. I'd love for you to become a member, or maybe just renew your membership again today. So again, amac.us/Regan. All right, turning to Elon, because he's quite a character. I love him. I think the guy is brilliant. I would be nervous as a Twitter shareholder right now. I think the deal eventually gets done. I'm not so sure it's going to go at $54.20, though. I've said before, it kind of has to, because he signed all these agreements, waiving his right to due diligence. And historically, deals, they always happen. I mean, the only one I can think of is Tiffany, where they were able to negotiate a little bit of a discount after having signed all the paperwork. But in this particular situation, you have an entrepreneur, a very gifted entrepreneur, that is now saying, wait a second, this is not what I signed up for. Now, I've in the past said, I don't know how much of a leg he really has to stand on, only because it's like, if you go and you buy a house, you see your neighbor's house and it looks fantastic, and you say, I don't need to look at the guts of the house, I don't need to go inside, I don't need to see the basement, and then it turns out, the basement's all flooded. Well, if you don't actually agree to have any kind of inspection, if you say I'm just buying it, cash deal, sight unseen, then how much recourse do you really have? Well, that's the question here in this particular case. Typically the courts would be like, yeah, good luck, this is what you signed up for. But in Elon's case, he's really making a lot of noise. His concern is that there are more than 5% bots on Twitter. I think there probably are. I mean, I know the company tries to cut down on those bots, but I have a feeling Elon might be onto something, that there are a lot of fake accounts. And so his point is, look, I had to go off of your SEC filings. If you lied in the SEC filings, then I really shouldn't have to be on the hook for this. And I'm starting to think, maybe there may be a path for him to get out of this deal. I don't know if he can get out of the $1 billion breakup fee, but if he's able to somehow prove that the company was lying on its earnings results and lying with the data that it provided to investors all along, I mean, that's a pretty big story, right? And that puts Twitter in a whole bunch of other problems, because you can't lie, right, on the quarterly filings. And if in fact it turns out that that's the case, I suspect he should have a right to walk away. I mean, again, tricky, only because he has said, I'm doing this deal, I'm not doing any due diligence. But this one is kind of weird. This one is weird. I mean, you cannot lie. You cannot lie to the SEC. Anyway, we'll see how it all shakes out. I do want to point out that shares of Twitter are getting hammered today. Earlier in this session, they were off about 5% as investors tried to, grapple with all this. I do want to say that they've come back significantly since then at 39.51 cents a share, down 1.6%, but still 39.51. That's a far cry from the 54.20 that he was promising. What we may find is that given all his threats to terminate the deal, his threats to constantly walk away from this, at some point the company may say, it's not worth a headache. I'm just going to deal with this anymore. And so, okay, we'll take a little bit of a discount, we'll negotiate a cheaper price, and then Elon wins the day. Anyway, if nothing else, there's, I think, been some exposure of Twitter in that, it's not what some people might think it to be in light of some of these bots. Again, we need to see more information, as does he, right? He's saying, I want the information. Twitter doesn't want to give him the information, and so this is why his lawyer, I believe it's Skadden actually, his lawyer had to fire off a letter to Twitter saying, look, you give us this stuff or else, and I get it. So we're going to continue following the Twitter thing. I think it's looking increasingly likely. Like he might actually get a better deal. I just want to double check that on it's Skadden. So that's the law firm representing him. I'm sure that they're like tearing their hair out right now, but he's got to get what he needs to get for this company. He needs to get the price he wants in order to hopefully make this into something. I still say this, that the entire landscape needs this shakeup, and he may just be the guy to do it, because he's clearly thinking outside the box in ways that we haven't seen in a while in this field. And so I would hope that having him in there is actually going to be eventually a good thing for the industry. Anyway, I want to remind you, again, make sure that you go to my website, trishintel.com. We had that story. We have lots of other stories. Of course, we've been watching these gas prices, all of that there for you at trishintel.com. You can join me over on my locals platform, which is trishregan.locals.com. Again, trishregan.locals.com. Of course, follow me on all social media. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do me that favor. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube, on Rumble, wherever you're getting these video podcasts. And if you're listening on audio, or if you've been watching on video and you want to watch the audio, go to Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. You can subscribe there for free, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.